This is a video series on how to program your own studies using Psychopy, which is a library of Python scripts meant specifically for that purpose.
So just to elaborate on that a little bit, we are going to be using Python itself. It's just that doing complicated stuff like showing a stimulus for a certain amount of time and accepting keystrokes as a response to that image, or posing a question to participants and waiting for them to type out their answer and they can hit backspace to change their answer. This kind of stuff might seem very simple, but building it all from scratch with basic Python can become very complicated. So Psychopy is basically a library where someone's taken a bunch of basic Python functionality and built it in such a way that you can jump straight to doing more complicated stuff, like I just said, without having to build it all from scratch.
So what I'm going to do is after we get the first videos out of the way, which are going to be a little more basic, eventually each video is going to go line by line and sort of show you how to program a certain type of study. And then after that, basically you'll have a bunch of templates for studies that you can customize and edit to be a more specific thing that aligns with your research interests and it's what you want to do. But also, I tried to arrange these videos in increasing levels of complexity so that we start off with the simplest studies possible that require the least amount of fancy uh, programming that requires a lot of explanation, and building up new stuff along the way, so that with each video you watch, if you want to make something from scratch, the more kind of raw material and building blocks and tools you'll be aware of. Some important things to point out, for one, is that when it comes to programming, lingo, programming in general. So anyway, going to the main thing here, you want to go to this website right here and download Psychopy and get it installed on your computer. This isn't a tutorial on how to install it or what problems you might run into during installation. I'm going to assume that you can get it up and running. If not, if you know me personally, I'm more than happy to try and help you. One thing I want to note, on my computer, I have Psychopy 2 and 3 for reasons I won't get into. Psychopy 3 is the one you want for these tutorials. It's the one I believe is front and center on the Psychopy webpage. I think you have to go digging for 2. You want to use 3 because Python 3 point whatever is the newest version that everyone's using. Some people, like my advisor, are still stuck on Python 2 point whatever, and they don't want to change. You really don't have to change much. There's like a few things you have to write slightly differently, but it's the way I chose to write in this tutorial. Also, by the way, when you get Python up and running, you might see this, where is it? Builder view. I don't know anything about Builder view. I think it's the default, like easy, super easy version of Psychopy that doesn't necessarily require much programming. We're not going to use that though. It might be up when you get it and you have to go to view and find open coder view. We're going to be using code. It's more customizable than whatever this is, or I'm assuming it's more customizable. Anyway, our first line of code is from Psychopy import visual. So I'm just going to copy and paste this into our Psychopy script editor right here. And the real important part of this code is the import visual. You see, when you're using a programming language, or a programming environment, I should say, there are a lot of tools and functionalities that are not, in a sense, kind of out there on the workbench ready to use. So you have to specifically say, I want to get this specific tool out so I can use it. Otherwise, it's stuck. It's, in a sense, kind of stuck in the drawer. Another important thing to go over is commenting. To comment in Python, you basically start a line with a hashtag like this, and then everything after the hashtag the program will ignore. So it'll run these non-commented lines and ignore the commented ones. And the reason that this is useful is that you want to explain what your code is doing. A very beginner mistake that a lot of people make is they don't do enough commenting on their code. They come back the next day and don't remember what any of this stuff is doing, which makes it hard for them to continue writing. Even experienced programmers who come back and they want to change some code won't remember what is going on, and they'll be just like, dozens and dozens of lines they have to read through carefully to try and reconstruct what it means. This is one of those habits you want to get into early. Unless it's a very routine thing that you know you're never going to forget, it's deeply ingrained in your brain, just put a comment around the code explaining what it's doing for your own sake. Another useful thing about commenting is, let's say you have this code running and you've written a function that you can call with this line that'll show a video to your participant, and then you have another function that runs after the video is done, which you can call with this line right here, which will ask for their reaction. But let's say that the code asking for their reaction is really not running exactly how you want. Well, you're going to therefore go into the code editor and tweak things and change things, and then you're going to hit this little run button, and each time you're going to have to watch this video, which is going to get very old. So what you can do is just comment the line that says show video and then keep running the ask for reaction code as you're tweaking it, skipping the video and saving yourself a lot of time. And then whenever you're done, you just uncomment the video for the final version. All right, next line. I'm not going to go too deep into what's going on here yet. I'm going to save that for the line afterwards. But basically, we're creating a window in which to present all of our stimuli. And the only real thing I want to point out here is the full scr equals false thing right here. In a real experiment, you want this to equal true, so it'll be in full screen. But whenever you're debugging and writing, it's a lot more useful to have it set to false, which I have here by default, because then it'll run as a smaller window within your screen. And for reasons that'll become very clear as you start working on this stuff, that's a lot more useful than having it go in full screen. So let's copy and paste that, comment and all, into our code. All right. The next line, this one I'm actually going to go more into and cover some programming concepts real briefly. But basically what this line is doing is it's creating a text stimuli that we can call on later. So it's putting the text, "Hi, welcome to the study," in a format that we can more easily present to the subject. So first we're creating a variable called message. Later we're going to say something like, in the window, let's show the stimulus. And which stimulus do you want to show? Show message. And message is going to be pointing to this value right here. And basically, message is just the short version of all this. For the function visual.textStim, this might seem a little funny. And yes, I am kind of going into more detail than what is necessary for people who just want to be able to basically copy and paste all this code and then make slight edits. So this is more for people who want to really get into programming later. Basically, you can't go straight to using the textstim function. You have to specify that it's from the visual library. So you do visual.textstim and then open parentheses. You have the arguments. Everything between the parentheses of a function are called arguments. Some functions don't have anything in their parentheses, which basically means, hey, I have this code defined somewhere, and when I say function open parentheses, that means just run that code that's defined by that function. A lot of functions, though, have slots in them because they do different things depending on what's in these arguments. So for instance, the window argument right here is for which window you want to put it in. Pretty straightforward. The text argument, and I'm not sure if it really matters what order you put them in, but for here you want to put text equals, and then within either single or double quotes, write what you want to show on the screen. Also note, the default for showing text stimuli or image stimuli for that matter in Psychopy is it uses this coordinate system of 0, 0 is the default. That's the center of the screen. And the first 0 is positive values will put stimuli more to the right, and negative values will put stimuli more to the left. So you wouldn't want to change that first 0 to some positive or negative number to shift where you want the stimuli to be drawn. And the second number is positive for higher, negative for lower. That's going to become relevant later. I just wanted to point that out real quick. If you don't specify where you want something to show up, it's just going to show up in the middle, which is probably where you want everything to show up anyway. Now to get into one of the big under the hood important operating principles of Psychopy. Basically, the way Psychopy works is you create some stimuli and then you draw it onto a card and then you flip the card over and show it to the participant. From a programming perspective, you have to specify each one of those steps. What am I going to show? Create it and then show it. So I have this variable called message written out, and then I'm going to say message.draw. So this is creating a screen that I can show to them that is going to have the message drawn onto it. And then you have to say window.flip, and that's going to, in a sense, it's like having a card where you've just drawn something on one side and then you flip it over and show it to them. So let's go ahead and put these into our file right here. And I'm going to be a bad boy and not comment it. It's a very bad habit if I were a beginner. Now this last thing here, import time, time.sleep with 4 in parentheses. I'm just going to unpack that a little bit. But basically what this does is, if I just left the code the way it was, like did message.draw and then flip, when you ran the program, it would just for a split second say, hi, welcome to the study, and then turn off. This code right here makes it to where the message displays for 4 seconds and then turns off. But to do that, you need access to a library called time, so I have import time right here. And then very basic function in there is sleep. You have to specify that it's from time though, so time.sleep. And then in parentheses, it can take, or I think it has to take an argument. You can't leave this blank. You have to say how much time in the format of seconds do you want it to sleep. So I'm going to go put that in there. Now, I don't often do this in these videos, but it is too much of a convention among programmers for me to ignore. All the imports, when you import packages, is typically put up here at the top of your script. You know, it doesn't really matter. You could import something right before you use it for our purposes, but I guess I'm just a little bit too much of a conformist. Everyone puts their imports up at the top, and typically you like to just set up everything up at the top and then start actually doing things in the order you want them to happen as you go. But anyway, this is all the code for your first study. It's basically going to say, hi, welcome to the study for 4 seconds, and then shut off. It's not very useful, but this is the building blocks. These are the basic things we're going to build on the next videos to where you're going to be able to make more interesting studies. So before you hit the running man to run the study, you have to save it. And I'm just going to call it blah, blah, blah. And you hit the running man. For some reason, when you copy and paste this code from slides, Python gets real weird about. This is the exact same character. It's a single quote here on text, but it gets upset for some reason. All right, let's run it. Can sometimes take a while. Hi, welcome to the study. If you actually wanted to run this, you'd want to change full screen to true. Save and run. There you go. Hi, welcome to the study. Again, this is a very primitive quote-unquote study, but the real point of this tutorial was to get you acquainted with these different, concepts like why are you importing this stuff? You have to create a window and the true-false thing, how to show one text stimulus and then wait.
So that's it for this time. The next videos are going to build on this foundation so that you can take user input, do more complicated designs, and record their data. So hope you check it out. Thanks.